Hey, what's up, everyone? This is David Greenspan, and you are listening to the MindShare podcast, a proud member of the Industry Syndicate Media Network. Additional podcasts are available at industrysyndicate.com and mindshare101.com. This week's episode is sponsored by Kit's Keep in Touch Systems. This is episode 4. Today, I'm joined by the agent marketer, the real estate CIO, the CMO for Wise Agent CRM, the organizer behind the Marketing Interrupt virtual conference, the host of the Agent Marketer podcast, and my good friend, and go figure, that's all just one guy, my man, Jason Frazier. Thank you for making the time today, man. What's going on?
Well, man, I think we just need to end the podcast right after that intro. I mean, geez, that's a lot of. It sounds great when you say it, man. Geez, that's like I need you to just follow me around and just intro me wherever we go because that was amazing. But yeah, I'm doing amazing, man. And dude, I'm stoked to be on your podcast, brother.
Buddy, thank you, man, and thank you for making the time today. Hey, listen, it is a new year. It's a new day, and I want to wish you and, of course, everybody listening a very happy new year. I am personally very excited for what's up the road this year. In fact, we have a very cool announcement to make later on in the show, so everybody stay tuned for that. That said, for me, and I know for Jason as well, there's been a ton of planning going on the past few months in preparation for it all. And I was saying last episode, it's all about setting those goals and having that plan. Now, part of that plan, back in episode 1, I told you all that I was told I need to get into voice marketing. And this guy right here was the man behind that push. Seeing that it is a new year and we have a lot to look forward to, as this whole topic is still fairly new, I thought it would be a naturally logical idea to ask him to join me here on the MindShare podcast to tell us what voice marketing is all about and why it is so important in 2019. So to get us started, I just mentioned your many titles. What I didn't mention and what I need to mention is that Jason is a marketing strategist. His niche is very much in the online marketing space. But Jay, can you share a little more, let our audience in a little more to who you are and what you do on the daily?
Yeah, sure. For me, I do a lot of things, right? So I'm a technologist in my heart of hearts, I'm a technologist. That's my background. It has been in technology, information security. My background is also in venture capital and technology startups. And so that's where I'm from. I never was a marketer. I never got into marketing. And so I just, kind of transitioned that. I grew up in the mortgage and real estate industry. And so it's been it's a family thing for me, but I didn't get into the industry or the family business until 2009. And so I've been doing that for since then, and last 10 years. And for me, you mentioned all the things that I do. I run my own marketing and marketing coaching and training program, which is called the Agent Marketer. And then I also am the chief marketing officer for Wise Agent, which is a real estate CRM. And I just started that in December. And the cool thing about that is that, not only am I just joining them as, their CMO, but then I'm also bringing a lot of the elements of the agent marketer, with me to help supercharge their content, help them create more content, give more marketing strategy, and become more than just a CRM to their clients. Wise Agent, great culture, great company, great people, and so I'm excited to do kind of like a joint venture between the Agent Marketer program and Wise Agent and just create something awesome. So on the day, I'm a content creator, so I'm doing live videos, got my podcast, got my Flash briefing, the Agent Marketer Flash. All these things. And then, helping, my coaching clients, helping the people that, come to me for support and strategy, like lead magnets, running Facebook ads, going out and looking at ad creative and messaging and then email drips and text messaging, all that stuff. Really just because that's what I do, right? Like, I mean, I love marketing. I'm a passionate marketer. My ethos is solving problems and helping people. Solving problems has just been something I've been my whole life. If there's a problem, I want to solve it, right? Again, I hate saying that because Vanilla Ice ruined that whole phrase for the rest of for the world ever. So it's like, you know what I mean? Like, but that's it. Like I like putting puzzles together, and that's who I am. And so So with marketing, to me, it's just a huge puzzle that I get to help because there's all these different industries, all these different people, and the messaging, the audience is it's a big challenge, especially now with the noisy online world. So, me, it's just, I do, if you're in this industry, you're a full-time agent, loan officer, you're doing your actual job, right? And even though I truly believe that you need to be somewhat of a marketer in those jobs because the brand is you. At the same time, I understand that you're busy doing that. You're structuring loans, you're taking buyers around, you're helping people sell their house, get that stage, doing all the daily work that is what you do. So, the part of the agent marketer and what I do is, look, I'm reading the books, I'm watching the videos, I'm going out there, I'm looking at the strategy, I'm testing the stuff on my own, then I'm testing it on other people. And then I give you guys the goods. I give you guys the cliff notes so you can then take them and help them grow your business. So that way you don't have to spend the time to do it. Cause honestly, time is, it's hard. It's hard to find the time to do all that stuff. So, on the day I'm just, every day, we talked about this the other day when you're like, dude, you cannot be up working right now. You're 3 hours behind or 2 hours behind me. And I'm like, well, yeah, I am. Sometimes I wake up at 3:30. I'm in the office by 5, and that's just how I do it. And it's not like, it's not like a badge of honor. That's just how I'm built, right? If you get up at 9 and then go to work at 10, then awesome. If that works and you're getting success that way, then do that. It's just like, I'm built differently. So, that's, people are always asking me like, where do you find the time? Where do you find the time? And, you make the time for the things that are important.
Yeah. You know what, man? Awesome summary. I mean, I have loved watching your ride, your journey over the past few years now. And I mean, just, sort of coming out of that Snapchat thing. And I know, sorry, man, I always bring that back up, but it's coming out of where I got to know you from the Snapchat stuff to, just you've literally taken over in this space. And I think it's an amazing thing to watch. And I give you a lot of accolades on that because I do wonder sometimes, like I'll get up at like, whatever, 6 o'clock and I'll like message you about something and like you respond and I'm like, what are you doing? Like, why are you up? I am ahead of you in a different time zone. So I think it's awesome, man. And I know I've picked your brain as I did even earlier on about, time management and how you manage it all. Cause I mean, for everybody listening, like you got to check this guy out, the amount of content he puts out, but it's not, you see, this is one of those things where it really comes back to quality over quantity. Mm-hmm. And although Jay has the quantity there, and I think people would be hard pressed to compete that against him on that, it's the quality is there. And I mean, there's a lot of great nuggets. And I'll tell you, like, I have learned a ton from you, man. So I think, yeah, it's been very cool to watch, and I want everybody that's listening to definitely check you out. So we've known each other now a few years.
Yeah.
And anytime we get going, we both know the hours can pass without even noticing. And I take us back to like even one of those conversations where we were sitting out at Pier 66 or 69 or whatever they call that thing in San Fran. And like, I think we were at that restaurant for hours and we didn't even notice it.
Yeah.
But you reached out to me not too long ago and told me, get this podcast started. You were touting, as you have been for some time now, the importance of voice marketing.
Yep.
So before we get into the why, can you share in your words, like, what is voice marketing?
So, the cool thing about doing this stuff now as opposed to before is that marketing is, and I think people are starting to understand that, is that marketing is messaging. Right? And messaging is attention, and attention is business, and business is sales, right? So when it comes down to it, is that marketing, just like consumerism, is a living, breathing organism. It changes. You cannot go to school for it and say like, this is going to be in a silo and this is the way it's going to be for the next, 10 years. It doesn't work like that.
So marketing all the stuff I was taught in marketing back when I went to school, it's like, that's old.
Well, it's definitely old, right? But
the stuff I learned 15 years ago.
But it's a foundation, right? It's a foundation to build and then to think. The problem with marketing is you got too many people thinking about it in terms of black and white. Like, I need to do this or I need to do that, right? They don't ask questions like, well, what if I could do this or what if I could do that? And a shout out to the book Disruptive Marketing, which talks about asking that question about what if. Is that, people think that, you have to be in one silo or another to reach a consumer that's this or that. What they don't understand is that the rise of technology, the rise of social media and stuff like that is aging everybody down. And by down, I'm really talking about the people where you used to have the traditional barriers of demographics of like, well, I'm going to have this message is going to reach boomers. This message is going to reach millennials. This one's going to be Gen X, whatever it is. Right. The thing is that everyone, I have a lot of people like, namely family that are older boomers, and they like Facebook Messenger. They like text messaging and stuff like that. But yet you would see hardly any traditional marketers do any type of messaging or creative based on those channels. They just wouldn't, right? And so they don't understand. They're too based off of traditional methods, and they don't look at actually what consumers are doing in their everyday life. And they don't pay attention to what they themselves, marketers, are doing in their everyday life, right? They're like spending, tens of thousands on commercials, knowing full well that they're watching everything on their DVR and they're fast forwarding past commercials. So why would you be spending money on that? Right. And they're not the only ones that are doing it. So,
Is that an age thing though?
It's not an age. Like I do that. My mom does that, and she's in her she's I won't well, she's probably not gonna listen to this, but if she did, she'd kill me. But she's in her 70s, right? Like I barely really talk to my mom on a phone. Like it's either like we do a FaceTime, it's either through Facebook Messenger, or a majority of it, like 90% of it's through text.
Interesting.
Not because that's what I want to do. It's because that's what she likes to do. She likes to text. She watches all her shows on DVR, right? My son doesn't even watch TV. He's 21. He watches everything on YouTube, Hulu, Netflix. So he doesn't even watch live TV, right? And so if I'm looking at messaging, now the message has to be a little different maybe, right? Because I can't be like messaging something that a 20-something-year-old would want as opposed to someone that's in a boomer. But the channel doesn't make the difference. And too many times traditional marketers have that twisted, thinking that the message channel and the message itself are the same thing. And it's not. It just isn't, right? Like people will care about things they're interested in, period. Right. And so you just got to meet them where they're going to be at. So, with voice marketing, the reason why, we'll get into the why, but what is like voice marketing, what it is you're making use of the efficiency of people's time, right? And by that meaning, like people are walking around, they're working out, they're driving, they're doing other things, they're reading books or whatever, passive. A lot of people have like that background noise, right? So voice marketing are things like podcasts, flash briefings, right? Doing that stuff. And that's passive. So as I'm driving, I could listen to a podcast. I could listen to a flash briefing. As I'm working out, I was in the backyard doing, gardening, or like, for example, right, Utah, we're getting some snow dumped on us. So as I'm shoveling this driveway, I'm listening to, Gary Vaynerchuk's latest podcast. So I could do that. I can't watch videos while I'm doing all those things. I can't watch videos while I'm driving unless I'm trying to die, right? Like, so I'm listening to these things, audio, and that's voice marketing, because you could do messaging, you could do branding, you can do calls to action to go check out your website, to download your ebook, get them into your sphere, sign up for your newsletter, right? Like everyone needs to understand that marketing is just part of what we do, right? But if we do it differently, we're not selling, we're not shoving it down people's throats, we're not the used car salesman, we're not doing this, but we're just doing interest-based marketing off stuff that consumers care about anyway. That is the easiest way to get business.
Oh, it's a value add for sure. 1,000,000%. I love the spin you just put out. What a spin. It was literally, as simple of a question of what is voice marketing. It was definitely a loaded question. I love the response on that, because you just hit something. So let me ask you this then. Why, not why do it, but radio would certainly be a form of voice marketing. But as I kind of have that thought running through my mind, I'm going to say that radio is not on demand. You can't go to you can change the channel if you want, but we all know the radio loops the same 20 songs all freaking day. The commercials aren't so different, and the conversation most of them are having, unless you're a fan of sports radio, which I kind of am. And even then, some of that conversation is just useless background noise. Whereas with, I guess in this voice marketing, as I pose the question, I'm kind of answering the question, is you've got that on-demand ability of being able to go back and listen to any subject, any topic, any length of time. And the convenience of it is amazing. Like I know for me, I read books in the car. And somebody hearing that just now might go, you read books in the car while you're driving? How do you do that? It's like, no,
Yeah.
I'm listening to books, right?
Yeah.
And I made a joke about this the other day where I was saying, like how I read the books, and I go, how I can't sit down to read a book. Like I'm not for anything, I'm a good reader, but I can't sit down and focus on a book. And I'm sure you're sitting there, and anybody else that are my friends listening are going, no shit, you can't sit down and read a book, Dave.
Yeah.
But this is where, for me, the audio book comes in. It's when I'm driving or when I'm doing. So I guess in that same breath, that's where voice marketing comes in, is that ability to build MindShare with people at a time that they are doing anything. You have that ability to still be there with them.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. 100%.
So tell me this then, what is a flash briefing? Just to break that down.
Yeah. So flash briefing is basically like a short, like audio news report, just to kind of summarize it really quick, but it is only available on Amazon smart speaker devices. And so Amazon, I'll call her Lexi because I have one in my office here and I don't want her to go off, but it's basically the Amazon Lexi, right? Like an Amazon Echo device, an Echo Dot, Echo Show, Echo Spot, whatever that you have. It's like I said, like kind of like a little mini, it's almost like a little mini podcast. The maximum length is 10 minutes. Right. The sweet spot is to do something like 3 or 4. I do mine. It's called Agent Marketer Flash. And I just do, snip, just basically marketing tips, tricks, news, strategy, commentary, kind of like my podcast, but I'll do it quickly. Like, for example, last week I did a flash briefing on email subject lines. Right. And then just talked about like having a magnet and a hook, and how also understanding like the rise of smart speakers. Now Amazon Echo will read your emails, but not only that, but allow you to respond to them and allow you to delete them. And so right now, if you're doing those canned crap, like emails, right, that everyone's doing, now people barely, when they read something, they'll take a second to think about it. Now imagine those bad headlines being read to you and sounding canned and sounding salesy by a robotic voice. They'll be like, delete. Yeah. There's no thought into it. They're making it easier to delete those spammy canned messages. So my thing, I did a blog post on it, and then I also did a flash briefing and said, look, if you're doing that canned crap that sounds like everything else, get ready, because guess what? Those are going to get deleted quicker than they were before, right? And so if you want people to actually listen to your stuff, start designing it to be something that when it's being read, that it's attention grabbing. And guess what? If someone's reading that headline to them and it's attention grabbing, when they read it with their own eyes, and it will be attention grabbing too. So just think about that. And so, and again, I think that ended up being like a 5-minute flash briefing on that. So like, and I just talked about that, and then that was it. So that, a podcast generally, some people do them differently, but generally they're like around a half an hour to an hour, hour and a half or whatever. Flash briefings, you do them, and then they disappear the next day, right? So it's like you do one.
Okay. So it's like a story on Insta or Facebook.
It is, exactly. Like now certain services, like I use SoundUp now for my host, and so like I have a widget in my website that you could go to, and you could listen to all my past flash briefings. I think I'm on episode 127, so I do one Mondays through Friday. But like when you listen to like you would say, hey, Lexi, play my flash briefings. And when you do, it will start playing all the flash briefings that you've enabled on your device. Right. And so it goes like, for me, I have like Gary Vee, we have our buddy Dustin and Chelsea, and a few others, right? I have my flash briefings. They'll go through and do the flash briefings. And then at the end, it's done. And then the next day, like that was a Monday, Tuesday, I say, hey, play my flash briefings. It's just like a news report. Yeah, it's giving me my daily news, right? And then it's going to play all the different episodes that they recorded to be published that day. Right. Now I can't go back to the day before unless those people like me have like a repository for those, so you could go back and listen to them if someone wants it. And just like radio, you can't do that either, right? Like you had mentioned that before. The beauty of doing like podcasting and flash briefings is like when you have these in the device, I can say, oh, what did he say? Let me go 10 seconds back. Let me go 15 seconds back. I could do that. You can't do that on radio. And then you have to sit through a bunch of crap that you don't want to listen to, all the commercials and stuff like that. Sports radio being different, because, it's like, if you happen to be the Dallas Cowboy fan and you're like, and coming up in 5 minutes, we're going to be talking about, the Cowboys' new search for a quarterback or whatever, obviously they're not searching for a quarterback, but like whatever news. And if you're a Cowboy fan, you're going to sit through all the commercials and just wait. You aren't going to be listening to them. but you're just gonna be listening and just waiting until it gets to what you want. And that was my point. The consumers will do whatever they want to do if they want the content, right? So that's why the intent and the interest comes into play. If you're not doing that, they're not going to wait through sponsors or anything else if the content is crap, right? It's got to be based off of what they want to hear, not what you think they need to hear.
So that flash briefing is really a much shorter form of a podcast, but it allows the listener to really pack a ton of content in a very short period of time.
Absolutely. And it's cool because it's quick, right? So you can listen to like I said, usually around 3 to 5 minutes. Mine, some I've done a few ones that are like 7 or 8, but mostly they're around like 4-ish, minutes. And if you do like, you have, I think I have like maybe like 8 people on there, and sometimes theirs are like 90 seconds or whatever. It's just a real quick hit. Some good tips, tricks, something to think about, like sometimes I've played like the audio of a motivational video, right? So someone talking and just to get people pumped. It's like, you know what, today's going to be my motivation. I want you to something that here's the audio of a video or something that I listen to, at least once a week to get me pumped and ready for, my day and ready to crush it. So here's that audio. And then that's it, right? You could put some music in there if you wanted to, based off of something that you're talking about. So the cool thing, but it's just quick, right? And so people consume it. Everything that people needs to understand, right, is that everyone's biggest advantage for their lives is their time, right? Like that's their thing that they love. They love their time, right? And how to make efficient use of their time. And that's what everyone has equal amounts of, right? Give or take, illnesses and stuff like that, right? But like it's everyone's got the same amount of time. And so it's how you can do that to make efficient use of that time. And again, people are talking about attention spans, which there's truth to that people don't have a lot of attention spans, but I will challenge you and say they don't have short attention spans for crap that they like, right? They have short attention spans for your salesy nonsense, right? So don't do the salesy nonsense, do stuff that interests them, and you won't have a problem with attention spans.
I think it's funny as you were explaining it. I was going to say, for everybody, for all of you ADD, for all of us ADD people, flash briefings are a great solution. But yeah, well said as well, though. I think that we do, because we're hit from all angles across so many different channels from marketers, and a lot of marketers, business people, whatever you want to call them, that are not thinking through the value proposition of it all. And I'm talking not what are you trying to sell, what are you trying to do when you solve a problem by somebody buying your product, but more what are you just doing to add value to your audience, to your listeners? What are you doing to help make them better in their world?
Mm-hmm.
And we filter through all of the crap so quickly these days. We know when we're being sold. We know we can smell it a mile away.
Yep.
So interesting. Okay, so here, why then? Why is it so important? More specifically, as our audience here is made up of realtors, mortgage brokers, loan officers, entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, anyone who's really in the sales world. Why is it so important for this group, who we know, like we just said, is typically very busy and overloaded? Why is it so important for them to incorporate voice marketing into their cross-channel strategy? And is there a cost to all of this?
So it's important because it's based on attention. Like, so what everyone needs to understand with the rise of voice marketing, if I was to make a timeline of user consumption or consumer consumption of audio content, whether that be audiobooks, podcasts, flash briefings, whatever, and put that up next to the timeline of consumer consumption of video, it's exactly the same. And in fact, it is beat those metrics along the same timeline. And what I mean by that is, if I go back to look before video was video, right? Before like it was YouTube and people were consuming it, and that was the main way to get a ton of attention and to sell products and stuff like that. Before that, and then look at the popularity and then equate that to what's happening with voice. Voice is beating it on a lot of different ways, but it's the same everywhere else. Meaning that if you see the importance of video now and how important it was to get in on it in the beginning, you have that same opportunity right now. And so that's what, again, it's passive. People could do other things while they're listening to your podcast, flash briefing, whatever you might be doing, turning your blog into, like an audio episode, and almost like forget ebooks. Now you're talking about audiobooks, right? But not like a huge novel or anything, but you're You're allowing them to consume the content on their terms, on demand, when they want to, right? And it's all about attention. Look, Lennar Homes, which is one of the biggest home builders in the United States, and I don't know if there's one if they're up in Canada, but all their new home builds will now have Amazon Echo technology built into all their new houses.
Wow.
Right? Amazon Echo already has the market share, the largest market share. They're somewhere like around 82%, I believe. Amazon Echo now owns the home automation market when it comes to voice-enabled speakers. I have that in my house. I control a ton of my stuff by just talking to it, right? That's only become more and more prevalent in our society. So you have a chance to build a reach or following or be that content source now that will eventually become mainstream for everybody, just like video, just like YouTube, right? Now people go to YouTube for TV and watch shows and channels. You have that same opportunity right now. And I'm sorry, I want to be, very respectful of everyone's career and their job and their time, but you have an hour out of your week to record voice content. And not only that, because you guys are driving to appointments, you guys are driving here or there, you guys have value. You guys have things that people want to know about, tips and tricks, going through a mortgage process, buying a house, selling a house. You just dealt with a pain in the butt client and talk about why that's going to affect the client and say, hey, if you're looking for a house, don't do these things because these are the problems it's going to cause. Like, you guys have all this content. These are content that people are searching Google for. These are content that people are looking on YouTube for. So why not create audio versions of this that people could find, that you could broadcast, and that people could listen to? So look, you guys need to understand what's happening in our society and culture. People are saying like, well, I've always heard the last few years that technology was going to replace me and this and that and blah, blah, blah. Look, you need to understand where we are now. Like, when people were saying that earlier in the early 2000s, it was cute to say, and people were selling a book or a product or something to help you stave off, being replaced or whatever. They weren't really wrong. They just had the timeline wrong. But guess what? 2018, 2019, we're there as a society. Everyone's comfortable with doing online banking. Everyone's comfortable with social media. And I say everyone, I'm talking about the majority, is comfortable with using social media. They're comfortable with online banking, doing their taxes online, using Venmo, PayPal, DoorDash, Lyft, Uber, living that online life, sacrificing a little bit of privacy for efficiency. And that's only going to continue, for better or for worse, to continue to rise. So take advantage of it, and voice is definitely going to be that new frontier. It already is. I mean, we've doubled after Christmas. The whole Amazon Echo ecosystem collapsed because tens of millions of people were trying to activate their device.
Wow! And you know what? Oh man! First, you guys got to follow this guy, okay? If you're not taking in a ton of content from this right now, I don't understand what's wrong. I am writing crazy notes, but something that just like this epiphany that just came to me. Blogging, and I joke about this one still every once in a while. It's an old thing now, but I think it's old. We've sort of gone into that vlog and whatever. But the blogging thing at one point in this industry was, you've got to do it or you're going to miss out. You're going to miss the boat, right? And I think that after about 10 years of that, and people going out and trying to blog and then hiring bloggers to blog for them and everything else, that really kind of, I think that the wind has died out for that whole thing some time ago. And then we came into this world of video, and video became the craze. You got to do video, and YouTube is obviously what YouTube is, and we know Netflix and everything else, but YouTube gives everybody even Vimeo gives everybody the opportunity to have their own channel, their own show, their own way to really stretch their brand across, again, another channel. That being said, where you and I both work with our audience on a daily, in terms of, like you said right off the top, trying to help people solve their problems and figure it all out, one of the things that I go through a lot of the time, especially one of the sessions we spend a lot of time in the MindShare Challenge, is about video and how to get comfortable with video. And I've really titled that session, "This Ain't Hollywood," for a very specific reason, of the fact that people got to recognize, like, if you want to do it, you don't need to have a studio. You don't need to have it all done, fancy schmancy. Like, if you need to, pick up your phone and just rip a video.
Yep.
But the thing becomes, a lot of people are camera shy. A lot of people are not comfortable getting on that camera.
Yep.
I think right here, right now, voice is going to trump video, because voice has such a limited barrier to entry.
Yep.
Right? All you need is just to pick up something and talk like you're talking on a phone, like you're recording whatever. It's too easy.
Yep.
You can be in your PJs if you really want to.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody will know. This to me, it's I guess in just listening with you and talking with you today right here, I think it's a revelation that I've just had. And I mean, I know you're already saying it, but I think it's one of those things that it's important for everybody here to recognize. Like, if you've wanted to get into that next level of your marketing, your brand, building the mindshare across different channels, and you've thought about video, but you've always been sort of fearful about it, or maybe you're even into it. I think voice just becomes a much easier way to get across. And I'm not saying get rid of the video, because everybody who knows me knows I love doing the video.
Yep.
And it's still got a huge place in our marketing world here. I think though voice, it's an amazing thing, and how simple it is for people. And again, they can listen to it passively.
Yeah.
So,
and I just want to jump in real quick because you hit on a good point. If you're not comfortable with video, cool, then do this, right? Do this. Yeah. It's the same thing, but also getting, I still think blogging is pretty important, but here's what you got here. You guys want to really like make efficient use of doing this. Rip a video, do it on 30 minutes. Then you take that audio off that. There's your podcast episode. You send it up to rev.com and have them transcribe it. And then there's your blog post. Right. So you're basically getting three great, content channels, right? You get video, you got voice, and then you got people that want to read your blog, and you're doing all three of them. And for podcasts, people do like websites, and they call them show notes. And they, things, and you could reference back to, people that want to listen to it there. It's in the blog. If they want to read it, it's in your blog. If they want to watch you, do that. So in 2019, I know a couple things I'm going to do is I'm going to start doing videos of my podcast. I've already done one. I think it was episode 21 with Shannon Milligan, where I have a video on there. If you go to the agentmarketer.com and go to the blog, you'll see it. But I have a video that I did, and then I turned that into a podcast episode. And then I also have some show notes below that, so people could read a little bit what we talked about. So you guys can then just kill, all the birds with one stone, all the content birds, so to speak, right? You got your video, you got your voice, and you got your blog. So you guys don't have to, and then, you had mentioned cost, and I don't think I got into that. A lot of this stuff you could do for free. You can find some free hosts and stuff, and there are some limitations. But even that, you're not looking at a big expenditure. The mic, you could buy one for $79 to up to $129. I'm using Zoom to record my podcasts. You could use Audacity, which is free. So there's so many different ways that you could do this. There's such a like David mentioned. There's a huge low bar of entry. And which is a good thing. And just like with other, media like YouTube and stuff, there's no gatekeepers, right? You do content, people like it, you build an audience. That's all that matters. You don't have to pay anyone. The days of big media are over. They just are. And so, take this opportunity to be on the new NBC, to be on the new Fox, the new CBS, the new CNN, all the new stuff that people are building themselves for free. Do that, build a content, build audience. It's that simple.
And there's something real important to state here is that if you're going to get into here, and I mean, again, it was a joke that I poked about blogging for a long time,
yep.
Especially on stage and just presentations, whatever. But if you're going to blog and you're not reading anybody else's blog, who do you think is reading yours?
Yeah.
Right. So if you're going to video and you're not watching other people's videos, who's watching yours? If you're going to do podcasts, you're not listening to other people's podcasts. Who do you think is listening to yours?
Yeah.
And I mean, this comes back to even your Facebook posts, your Instagram posts. Like if you're posting, but you're never liking and commenting and reacting to other people's, you're not going to get the engagement. If you're constantly just stalking and you're not even posting and you're not getting engaged, you're not going to get the engagement. So all of these platforms, all of these channels, it's so important to engage with people. Let people know you're there. Once they know you're there, they know you're there. They're going to be there too. You know what I mean? So
yeah, absolutely.
My whole thing, and you know this, and everybody else here knows this, and I sort of said this a few times now over the past few minutes, but I'm all about building MindShare. And the goal with building MindShare is for you to expose people to your brand to the point where you've left an impression in their mind.
Yep.
They remember you. You occupy that tiny little space in their brain for instant recollection, putting you in the right place at the right time. And we know that this doesn't happen easily, right? Like it takes consistent effort over an infinite period of time. But it is that constant drip so that when people tell you they see you everywhere, you ask them specifically where, their response is typically they don't even know. The one thing that's key, though, is that they know that they see you and your brand. So, I mean, you know, and everybody else, you know, I could go on and on about this topic specifically today, but as I do every day, and I do that in our members-only Facebook group called MindShare 101. I do that right here on the MindShare podcast. But Jason, can you share for us, like here right now, how can these guys implement voice marketing? What are some tactics they can use to build mindshare with it?
Yeah. So with that is it's just like with any other marketing technique is that you put it everywhere. Like if you're a perfect example is if that you're an agent, have your podcast link on there, right? Start doing it on your flyers, right? Throw it on your business card, throw it on anything to where you're talking to people, get some branded shirts with your name of your podcast on it, right? Like, don't forget, like you guys could do that. And it doesn't have to come off as salesy, right? The build the mind share. And you already mentioned it, Dave, is talking about like seeing you everywhere. Let them see you everywhere, right? Like if you're doing billboards, then you have your billboards, you have a podcast, you have people are going to, Google your name, your podcast is going to pop up, your LinkedIn profile is going to pop up. Just be everywhere. And then, to me, the whole foundation of mindshare is to when they think about like selling their house, buying their house, getting a mortgage or whatever, they think about you. Yes, and so how are you going to create that? And you only create that by being in front of them as much as possible because with podcasting and stuff, like they want to do that. So let's say you write a blog post, right, about moving to Toronto from another area, another city, right, or moving from Ontario to British Columbia or whatever. Forgive me, I'm not big on like knowing what's up in Canada. I can only go for the places that from Vancouver or something like that because those are the only places that I've ever been to. But like you could talk about those things like, or down here in the States, you talk about like moving from Utah or from California to Utah, right? Write a blog post about that and then have a link to your podcast, do a video on it, on Facebook, and then have a link to your podcast, run Facebook ad. And I'll tell you, even though has anything to do with voice marketing. If you are not spending at least $1 to $2 a day on Facebook advertising, you guys are really missing the boat. That eventually is going to get so much more expensive. It already has from when we first started doing Facebook ads. Look, start doing that now. Run Facebook ads to your podcast. Run it to your flash briefing. Run Facebook ads about brand video. Do it. It's what we do in the Age of Marketer. We called build awareness videos. And I have my members do it at $1 a day. They could get like anywhere from like 1,100 to 2,500 views of their video of just because they're doing it the right way. They're doing it so it doesn't look like an ad. Yep. They're not selling anything. They're just building awareness of them. They're talking about their local market. They're focusing on what we call the 3 Ls. And then this actually plays into the mindshare thing is in the Age of Marketer, we talk about the 3 Ls, and that's doing your content based off of things that consumers like, what they love, and where they live. Because remember, and I said it earlier, you got to do the content that interests them, not what you think interests them and not what interests you. And that's where we always get it twisted up, especially on the mortgage side. We're like, oh, well, conforming loan limits just changed. So let me talk about that. But they don't talk about what that means. A consumer's never going to be searching for that. They just aren't, right? So who is your audience for that? Know your audience. Focus on the 3 Ls because guess what? It's all about interest. Are consumers interested in things they like? Yes. Are they interested in things they love? 100%. Are they interested in things and where they live? Yes. If you do your content based off of that as a foundation, you will get their interest. And then through that, they find out who you are. You don't have to say, I'm a realtor here in the greater suburbs of blah, blah. You don't have to do that if you do your content right. It's just known. It just is. So through, for example, when I first met Dave, I didn't know what he did, right? I didn't know anything about his company or anything like that. But through consuming his content, I know what it is. I know what he does. And it wasn't because I looked him up. I didn't go to his website. I didn't do any of that stuff. It's just because I consumed his content and it was enough to where I was interested in what he was talking about. And through that, now I know what he does, and I'm never going to forget what he does. I don't care. And you're saying, well, of course, you're your friends. Guys, I'm going to tell you right now, I have friends that I've had for decades. I have no idea what the hell they do for a living. Right? It's just true. Unless it comes up, right? I don't know. I'm not the guy that always asks what they do and, at the beginning of living. Now, obviously in the industry, you're networking, you're probably doing that stuff. I find out by consuming their content, right? And that's just me. And I do that for consumers too. It's like the stuff that pops up, the stuff that stays in your head. That's what creates that mind share, is by being everywhere, as many places that consumers have attention. And it's not the phone book. It's not billboards. It's not radio. It's social media. 1 out of every 5 mobile minutes, 1 out of every 5 is spent on Facebook.
Wow.
So in mobile minutes, right? 93% is done on mobile. So if you're sitting there worried about what it looks on like your desktop, if you're worried about what your website looks on a desktop, you are literally going to less than 15% of the population is what you're designing your marketing to. If you think that's a successful marketing tactic, good luck.
Wow, buddy. You know what, man? Like I said off the top, we could go on for hours. This is absolutely awesome. Tell me something. Where can people find you? Where can they find the Agent Marketer podcast? Also, when are you typically launching your new episodes? When they get released?
Yeah. So what I try to do is I try to do them on, I was doing them every Thursday, but I try to do them. If you just subscribe, then you'll get them when I release them, but I try to keep it on a beginning of the week schedule. So I'll try to do it on a Monday or a Tuesday, release my episodes. But you could find me at theagentmarketer.com. You could also go to Wise Agent or join the Wise Agent user community that we have, the Wise Agent community on Facebook. The Agent Marketer group is a private group for paying members of my coaching program. But, I'm the Agent Marketer everywhere. You could Google the Agent Marketer. You could Google Jason Frazier. You'll find my articles, and you'll find, everything else that I'm doing online. And I'm saying that because, look, this isn't how I came up. This isn't how I was trained. This isn't what I went to school for. If I could do it, you guys could do it. If you guys knew how much of an idiot I was when it came to technology, I played sports in high school. I made fun of people like me.
I do not believe the idiot part of the technology thing. There's no way.
Yeah. So yeah, if you guys, and I always say this, I haven't found the copy of the book yet, but if I could, I could share the copy of the book that I did as how I was learning how to build computers. Like, you guys would crack it. Basically, it was like 5 steps below the dummy books, right?
Oh,
so if any of you guys have ever read the dummy books, like, Computers for Dummies, Windows for Dummies, Apple for Dummies, any of those dummy books, like I was 5 levels below that, right? Like I said, I played sports in high school. I made fun of people like me, but I had a knack for it, oddly enough. And that's kind of, I went all in and I took the time to do it. Same with marketing. Like I wasn't a marketer. I didn't care about marketing, but I got into it because I saw the importance, and just understanding, like, as a culture, we're changing. And when it comes down to it, and this is something that I talk about all the time, and if so, you guys, forgive me if, this is something that you've heard a million times, but you know what? I'm going to keep saying it until everyone gets it, is, if you're listening to this podcast as an agent, mortgage broker, loan officer, whatever, that 90% of your colleagues aren't going to do a damn thing about any of this stuff.
Yes.
You know it. And you know it because you personally have not done a damn thing about it.
Yeah,
me saying that, because I have been there and haven't done a damn thing about it, doing certain things until I realize that I get the wake up call some way or another, and then I go and do it, and then I get the success from it. So it. Be the 10% that actually does this, because in the next 36 months, this industry is going to change, and change hard. People aren't going to make it. Companies are going to close down. But the 10% that really goes in and creates the Amazon experience, goes in on their personal brand, does the marketing, does it themselves. And look, you guys could pay me to do it, or you could take the time to go out and go on YouTube and all the other free. Look, I learned a lot of this stuff for free, and then buying books and watching videos. You could do the same thing I did. I'm not here selling anything. I'm just saying that's the route I took. It takes time. It took me 2 years to get everything where I'm at right now. It will take you 2 years, but if you start that path now, then you'll be all the better for it down the road.
Absolutely, man. And I mean, I'll add into that. And I talk about this a lot. Consistency.
Yeah.
Right. Just starting and doing it once doesn't mean anything. Posting once on Facebook, doing one podcast, one video, it doesn't do it. It's that constant, just keep going, stop worrying, stop thinking so hard, and just do it, because by the time you did it today, tomorrow it's already old.
Yeah,
so
100%.
Keep going,
100%. And the last thing I'll say, and just to get a little deep, because I know that David feels the same way, and this is why I like David so much, is that what are you guys doing this for? Like, you guys chose to be in this business. So if you did, why would you not do everything in your power to be the best at it? Right. And if you're not willing to do that, then go do something else, right? That you do have passion about, that does make you happy, that you do want to be the best at something. I just don't get it. I don't get it when people decide to do something, why they aren't willing to put in the time and the effort to do that. Look, guys, we're not coming back. We get one shot at this, right? We get one shot at this life to do what we're going to do, to build a legacy, to crush it, to do everything we want to do, be success, work hard now so that we're, relaxing, in our later years, because we're all going to meet that same end, right? Do it now. You're going to regret it. You will. You've regretted stuff. I regret a lot of crap that I didn't do. Why didn't I get into podcasting last year when people were telling me about it? Right. So like when I'm telling you and I'm making those statements, like, based off of where it sounds like me either being, arrogant, condescending, or coming down on you, I'm doing that for myself because I did the same damn thing, guys. Like, so do it. Go out and do it. You guys will 1,000% regret it if you don't.
Hey, man, this is what I talk about, the sheep mentality. I don't think you're standing condescending whatsoever. You guys all come out and you go to conferences and you listen to all sorts of great people talking about all sorts of awesome topics. And everybody gets really jacked up when they walk away. There's a lot of bad, whatever, boring stuff. Yep. But a lot of time you'll come away with that few nuggets in that thing, or you'll walk out with the entire group that's in that room and everybody's pumped and everybody's going to go do it. And then a few days later, it's like, yeah, I'm going to get there. And then a week later, you're like, well, it wasn't really for me. And Jay just said it. 90% of people are going to do that.
Yep.
Be the 10% that go with it. Be the 10% that actually execute on it. Actually put the plan in motion and make it happen. Amazing message, Jay. Thank you, man. I really, really, really appreciate all your insight on this one today. I want to change gears now, though. Sort of. This is a huge week for a whole bunch of us.
Yep.
This week, we are finally letting the world into something a whole bunch of us have been working on. And I have to tell you, man, I am really excited about it, as I know you are.
Yep.
I think it's an awesome idea. Not only does it help us all create a stronger voice for ourselves, our shows, our brands, but even better, the consolidated knowledge from everyone here is already and will become an even more powerful combination for realtors and mortgage brokers, loan officers across North America. And the way it's going, we're going to be taking on the world.
Yep.
So now that I've given you all this exciting preamble, I am really, really excited to announce the Industry Syndicate. This is a conglomerate of like-minded podcasts getting together to share a knowledgeable voice for the real estate industry, and I am jacked that the MindShare podcast is a part of this crew. In fact, this podcast crew includes, we've got the Mortgage Agent Expert hosted by Phil Treadwell, the Massive Agent Podcast hosted by Dustin Brome, Prime Real Estate hosted by Justin Konikow, Agent Rise, formerly the Onion Juice Podcast, hosted by Neil Mathweg, REC Experience hosted by Jazz Takari, the Modern Agent Podcast hosted by Rick Gonzalez, TechNest hosted by Nate Smoyer, Voice of Social Sales hosted by our girl Chelsea Pites, Daily LOL Life hosted by Josh Pitts, the Agent Marketer Podcast hosted by the one and only Jason Frazier, and of course, the MindShare Podcast with yours truly. Jay, I am pumped, man. What do you think about this? What's this going to do for our industry?
Yeah, it's awesome. And just we forgot one on there is actually Phil's is the mortgage marketing expert, and then we got a late addition to the group after our call, and that's Bill Risser and the Real Estate Sessions podcast.
Yes, not to forget Bill. Absolutely.
Yeah, so the cool thing is that this is going to be not just a podcasting network, but a media network. So like Josh Pitts is the Daily LO Life. He does Facebook Live, has a Facebook Live show, really popular one, has a huge audience, and then he's going to be turning that into a podcast as well. So kind of back to what we were talking about is like, hey, repurpose this content. You could do the voice and rip the voice off and do that. But so it's going to be a media network. We're starting off with these 12 shows, these 12 creators of some awesome content, and we're calling it the Industry Syndicate because it's the industry. We have title, real estate, mortgage. We have marketers, we have vendors, but all of us serve the industry. And so that's what we're starting with are these 12 launch shows, which we're super excited, especially having Dave a part of it as well. To us, it hasn't been done in the industry. It doesn't exist in the industry. There are no media networks traditionally for, I mean, yeah, you have like publications like an Inman or Housing Wire and stuff like that. But we're talking about a media network where we're all creators bringing our shows together. It's a collective where we're all helping each other grow, helping each other with guests, with getting the word out, advertising each other's show, having each other's on each other's guests, because together we will create a strong presence in this industry. And the cool thing is we're also going to have a personalized app, the Industry Syndicate app that you will be able to download. Now, we're launching this on July 3rd officially on Dustin Brome's show, the Massive Agent Podcast. And that's so go subscribe to that so that you don't miss that official announcement where he goes into all the details of it. And he also has a very awesome guest.
Sorry, Jay, you said July or January?
January. January 3rd, this Thursday. And he's got an awesome guest. Also, the first time in our industry that this guest will be talking for a real estate podcast. So that's awesome, and you'll see why. Hint has to do with Agent 2021. But this is the difference: is that we're having we are going to be able to promote each other in ways because we're going to have different guests. We have collectively our audiences are in the tens of thousands across an entire continent. And not only that, but we're talking some shows that are across the pond as well. So look, this is going to be big. And not only that, but every single creator that we have on here, we all have the same vision. We all have the same mission of adding value and helping others with growing their business in the modern era, right? We don't have any of the people that are like, well, we're romantic about the way things used to be. We wish business and blah, blah, blah. We have people that really understand like what this business is about. And we're all practitioners. We're not just like saying like we're reading a book and saying like, well, this is how it should work. It's like, this is stuff that we all do in our daily lives. These people, these creators, guess what? They're full-time agents, the full-time loan officers, full-time title, full-time marketers. This is what they're doing. And they're adding their collective value together so that you will have one community to go to grow your business. That isn't like the nonsense that you get on a lot of Facebook groups and stuff like that with thousands of people, whining and complaining. This is about one thing: growing your business and crushing it. And so that's why we built the syndicate.
Oh, buddy, we're going to take over the world. I am so pumped, man. I am encouraging everyone listening, subscribe to every single one of these shows right now. You're either listening to this on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, wherever you're listening to it, you're there. You're here right now. Just do the quick searches if you aren't already following these shows and make sure that you do. I've added the complete list into the episode description for you. And speaking of this show, if you liked this week's episode, which of course I hope you did, please leave a review, rate me, subscribe. And if you aren't yet, check me out on Facebook at MindShare 101 and on Instagram at David Greenspan 101. This has been another episode of the MindShare podcast. Thanks everyone for listening.